And the president and his family, they're not at the White House. They're right here at their Florida estate for the holiday weekend, Mar-a-Lago. And that's where we find our Errol Barnett in Palm Beach, Florida. Errol, we're learning now there's a bit of a renewed push for President Trump to release his tax returns today. Why now, and what are we learning about that?
Well, Rena, because of the calendar, essentially, April 15th is typically when Americans have to file their taxes if they owe the government money, even though it falls on a different day this year. A number of groups have decided to use this day across the country to bring attention to the fact that President Trump still has not released his tax returns. There are hundreds, if not potentially thousands of protesters who have all emerged here at West Palm Beach today with that message of we are frustrated by the lack of transparency by the president. And with some of the newest developments, for example, from Friday, that the White House would be breaking with tradition and not releasing those White House visitor logs showing who comes and goes to speak with staff at the White House, whether they be politicians, donors, or influencers and celebrities. The fact that that will not be released as a blanket policy to many of these demonstrators shows that this president is actually not being transparent. And for those who may already have liberal tendencies, they think this adds to more of the suspicion and concern about potential influence from Russia and who is really having the president's ear and who does he listen to, who does he value. So for these protesters who have been frustrated by a number of issues, and there is a large age range of demonstrators who've decided to come out today, it's the tax issue and the lack of transparency that seems to be uniting them today. So Rena, they began their march behind me a short time ago. Over this next hour, they will march to an island which is just off of Mar-a-Lago, which sits in Palm Beach on its own island, and they hope that sends the message to President Trump that his lack of transparency as they see it so far to them is unacceptable.
And Errol, they're justifying not releasing the visitor logs by citing the Obama administration. What are they using as their argument on this?
They are, because during the Obama administration, it was decided that while the executive branch has the right to withhold certain information that it deems classified or private, in general, the Obama administration decided to release as much information about who visited the White House as possible. This is the first time, this is the first administration to issue a blanket no release policy based on national security and privacy concerns. Again, during the Obama administration, those same concerns existed, but they were used to redact names of certain security officials or people who may be advising on highly sensitive national security matters. In general, the White House visitor logs can be accessed through a Freedom of Information Act request. Now, the Trump administration, at a time when there are many questions about potential influence from Russia, questions about the Republican chairman in the House, the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee's investigation into Russian influence, Devin Nunes, perhaps he was going to the White House and sharing information at the request of those in the White House. Visitor logs would shed some light on that. At a time like this, when there are so many questions about who is coming and leaving the White House, many of these demonstrators feel that this is actually building on their suspicions that there is something being hidden by this administration. So certainly there is a ground for the administration to stand on, and they do have the right to limit that information. But many protesters here feel that overall it's adding to this sense of lack of transparency.
Errol Barnett in Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you, Errol.